let you in.
What's going on, Roundup homies? I got crazy people in my house.
She wants to do the magic word.
Open the door. Let me flip this camera around. This is what I gotta. This is what I gotta deal with, y'all. People getting in my bathroom.
Say the magic word.
Unlock the door.
Ready?
Anyway, so what's going on, Roundup homies? Tonight, I got my boy Daniel Barrero's going to be coming on with us. Hey, y'all chill. Cut the light off. Cut the light off. Lord have mercy, God. You can leave the door open. Open my door. Taylor. I'm sorry, y'all. What's going on? It's January 29th. We got 3 more days. 2 more days left in the month of January. It is a phenomenal day to be alive. I'm thankful. I'm honored. It is such a pleasure to have you in my life. Tonight, you're going to meet one of my mentors, Daniel Barrero. We generally speaking, we go live on Instagram, but we're starting to go a little bit live on my channel here on YouTube just to provide some value for the Roundup homies. And tonight I'm going to talk about several things going on in my life. We got the new construction, we just sold a house, several offers in, and 1099s, because you got to get your 1099s in. You got to get your 1099s in. What is a 1099? What is a W-9? We're going to get to that with Daniel. Let's see where he is. Come on, Daniel. Where you at, brother? Barrero, where you at? So the 1099s, anytime you have a person that you pay in business over $600, I highly recommend you to do a W-9. That's where you report the money that you're paying them to the IRS directly. You're going to let the IRS know that, look, hey, I paid these people money. So what happened for me was I got audited several times. And sometimes the IRS doesn't want to hear, oh yeah, I wrote this guy a check, here's a canceled check. So canceled checks can be manipulated. And I'm going to get into that and tell you how that can happen too. What's going on, Dan? How you doing, brother?
What's going on with you, Chris? Not for nothing, but I like that this looks so much sharper than Instagram.
Yeah, I think they got better technology, I think.
They do. Much better.
Well, you can't be mad at them. I'm sure they'll come around.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
Screen is way wider on here.
Much wider, much wider. I see you got 20 people on here already. That's pretty damn good.
Well, we got to spread the word of entrepreneurship, brother.
Love it.
Dan, I did a podcast. I was a guest Friday night on a podcast. And as I'm aging, I'm trying not to judge. Like I never forget my uncle's like, I'm trying to stop judging. These guys were talking about current events, and one of the topics they were talking about was girls in the gym holding up the camera, acting like they were recording themselves, but they were actually recording guys looking at their behind. And I'm listening to this conversation. I'm like, this is a low ass vibration conversation right here.
And where was this at?
Guys wanted me. I had to go on that podcast. Some local guys, I didn't know the guys, man. I was doing a favor for a friend, and I just
That sounds like they were really young. Were they young?
No, they had to be in the 40s.
Then I'm surprised. They should know better.
I'm surprised, Dan. And they had their section, then they brought me on, right? And I'm like, I just couldn't believe they asked me a question. They said, we have to ask you, are you a boobs or a butt man? I'm like, why in the hell? It's Friday night, 9:00 at night. Got 6 grown men in the room. Why are we talking about women's body parts when we got white power structure? You people working. I'm just like, what? And what are we grown men? And I guess I'm asking you, Dan, like, I feel like the majority of our community, they just focus on the wrong thing.
So the reality is, man, those you can't You can't argue or change stupid. Um, they had the opportunity. They had Chris Haskins in the room. They had opportunity to educate their audience on things that matter, like financial awareness, financial benefit for the community's benefit, right? Because the reality is that you know the, there's no argument to this. These are statistical facts. The more educated people are, the more income they earn, right? That's just a statistical fact. If you don't have a high school diploma, you are 30% more likely to be in the poor category than your entire life. You
Yeah.
know, if you have kids out of marriage, whether you agree with what I'm about to tell you or not, the reality is that you are most likely not going to even make it to middle class. All
Wow.
right. So, and
Wow.
again, this is statistical. This is not my personal opinion. And and
Mhm.
and whether we like what I'm saying or not, it's irrelevant. It's just the
Right.
truth. So, instead of taking that opportunity while they have this platform to educate people in the community, especially them having Chris Haskins there, it's a shame that they took that moment to talk about women's body parts at the gym rather than to speak about financial awareness or what we could possibly be doing, what they could possibly doing by enlightening the community on how to do better, not only financially but with their families, right? So it's an unfortunate situation that this platform provides that opportunity, but many people don't take advantage of it.
Well, I guess I sometimes when I'm just going on my day to day, I think everybody knows what wholesaling is, or subject to, or lease option, or screening tenants, or hiring. I almost come like I do it so much, and I guess I want to ask you: Does it? I'm like everybody knows that. Or everybody knows this.
Chris, so I kind of assume that I used to assume everyone knows it, but now I don't because of my mentorship class. So, like, on my last mentorship class on Wednesday, we were talking about the benefits of purchasing a property with tenants, existing tenants, and the disadvantages of purchasing property with existing tenants.
Yeah.
And, one of the subject matters I had to come up, and that's in order for the mentees to understand what we were talking about was the word HUD, right? Or and I was very surprised how many people didn't know what a HUD was,
Yeah.
right? But I was surprised, but I'm glad I took the time out to ask, well, before I move on, or explaining what should be on the HUD in reference to tenant security and prorated rents. Do you guys know what a HUD is? For those of you that don't, it's not a problem because that's the reason why you're here to learn. And of course, there were a couple of hands that most of the people did know, but some people didn't. But that's okay because I'd rather people say I don't know what that is so that we can educate, right? There's
That's
no
true.
stupid question when you're trying to learn. But a
You know,
question like what Chris was asked about women's body parts in the gym, that's a stupid question on especially on that platform because it's not helping anyone.
I just, dude, I was so blown. When I think back, I should have just stopped it and said we need to raise the vibration of this thing. But I was in their world and they were smoking and stuff, and I'm like, let me just roll with it. But anyway, round up. If you got any questions for Dan, he's been in the real estate business since '89. One of my mentors. He's the guy that I call if I have no idea how to answer a question. So you have him tonight as we move into the first quarter of 2023. It is an honor. Dan, you were talking about tenants. I love buying. My thing is, I hear people say they want to install their own tenant, but I like buying a property which got a tenant. I don't gotta. All I gotta do is start collecting money.
Like I said, there's disadvantages and advantages. I have tenants, for instance, in Florida. I'll give you this one example. I bought this property back in March, and it was 11 months left on the lease. She was
Right?
only paying $850, but
Was
I
that one
was okay
bedroom,
with it.
a studio?
Yeah, it's a very small one bedroom. It's under 600 square feet. And I'm okay. I was okay with it because it still covered all the expenses on plus left maybe about 200, 300, about $300 left over every month. Actually more, about 350. And I bought the property based on the rent roll, not on the actual value of the property, of what the actual value should be, right? So I knew that when that tenant moved out at the end of the lease, I could sell that for 160.
Uh-huh.
And I bought it for 110. So I'm already 50 grand, right? So now I send that tenant a letter, certified return receipt, and an email, plus a first class, letter, informing that tenant 4 months before her lease is up. Listen, you pay your monthly rent on time. You're a great tenant, but I can't afford to keep you there at that low rent. The market rent for that apartment is $1,300. I'm going to bring you up $400. You're still below the market rent. You'll be at $1,250. Let me know at least 30 days prior to you vacating, before the end of your lease, if you want to stay. Well, of course she stayed, because she's not going to get anything cheaper than that, right? But the best part was, now that apartment is at market rent, right? I increased my profits by $400 a month, so now I'm making approximately $750 profit a month. The day we closed on that, I collected the prorated rent. And in Florida, I have to also pay to find a tenant. So I saved the money on finding a tenant, paying the realtor. I saved the money on, changing the apartment out, meaning the cleaning and the repairs and the painting. And I've been making money on it since day one. But then you have the opposite side of that coin, where I bought a building where I had a tenant in it, and she was a nightmare, and it took me literally 18 months to get rid of her. So there's goods and bads.
Is that the lady during COVID, or another tenant?
Oh, this is another lady. This is another lady. So, again, it's good and bad, but this is why you have to do your homework, right? This is why you need to get into those apartments during the inspection period and have a conversation with the tenants, see how they're living. You're going to be able to tell, Chris, right or wrong. You'll tell everyone. Within 2 minutes, you know if that's going to be a problem tenant or not.
Oh yeah, you can tell.
Yeah. So, but then you have to decide: is the property worth? Is it worth taking on that headache at the price point that you get in the property? And if it's not, you renegotiate the price point.
There you go.
Or walk away.
Everything's negotiable.
Yes, everything's got a price. So, there's a value to that seller if you're willing to take on his headaches. Now, how much is that seller willing to pay for that value is a different argument, right? But that's what you got to find out.
Listen, y'all, get your questions in, man. Y'all got Dan Barrero on here, and we're going to be here for a few more minutes, not long tonight. Dan, let's talk about W-9s and 1099s.
I love it. This is somebody who is on my mentorship. Great to purchase with tenants, as long as you do a certificate of tenant confirmation.
What's that? I don't even know what that is.
So it's a certificate of tenant confirmation. I have my sellers have the tenants sign a certified return form that says tenant agrees that this is their current rent. This is when their lease expires. This is how much security is on deposit. This is when they made their last payment, and that they currently owe no money. Now, the tenants.
When did they sign this?
Prior to us closing.
What? You can look at the lease and see what that is. What do you mean?
But how do you know the lease is correct?
What do you mean?
So I'll give you an example. I got burnt like this. I go to the tenant. Tenant says, I'm leaving. I said, great. Tenant says, I want my security deposit. I said, what security deposit? You got no security deposit. Says, yes, we do. And they start showing me receipts.
Hold up. What does this have to do with the lease? The lease tells you what the security deposit is.
How do I know the lease is true?
How could it lease? What do you mean the seller owner was signing it?
You don't know that. I got screwed like that. So now I don't buy a property unless I get that certificate. Now, if the seller signs it and the renter signing it and it's notarized, there's no more argument about how much is whether the lease is valid or not.
What?
Think about it, man.
You telling me? Hold on, man.
I know.
Dan, you always take shit to the next level. I'm like, wow, you talking about people falsifying leases?
Listen, listen to what happened to one of my mentees. My mentee calls me up, similar story. Says, Dan, got this lady. She, her lease says that it was a month to month. There was no security, and that her rent was $1,200 a month. Well, when I go to, she sends me a check for $800 a month. I said, well,
That's
I
the
thought you
first
told me
month's rent. That's the first month rent.
no. So I said to him, did you get the certificate? He says, what's that? I explained it to him. He goes, but now this is in New York though. This is a different animal. This probably wouldn't happen where you're at. But now, because the tenant is saying, I gave him security and my rent's $800, not $1,200 or whatever it was, right? He's got to go to court. But it's taking him 3 months just to see a judge in the city of New York.
3 months.
That's not including, and now she comes to court and says, Judge, I know no English. Oh, you got to get a translator. Come back next month. Now it's 4 months. Now she comes to court and she tells the judge, Judge, I don't know why I'm here. I don't understand. And I don't understand nothing about legality. I need a lawyer. So the judge says, okay, come back next month. So now it's 5 months. Now she comes back to court 5 months and she says, oh, Judge, I found out I can't afford a lawyer. Judge says, go to legal aid. I'm going to give you another month. Now it's 6 months. Do you see how it works?
Hold up. Usually you can ask the judge for them to escrow some of the rent, though.
Not in New York. Never happened.
Oh, my Lord. Get your questions in. I promise you, we're going to get to them, y'all. Get your questions in.
So, Kenny D, why don't you
Hold on, you
add
got
the
off
security
the top.
deposit into reducing the price of what the seller is selling the property for? So the reality is this. When you have those numbers, let's say the rent is $1,000 a month and it's one apartment. Let's assume it's one apartment to simplify it. And you close on the 15th of the month. On your HUD, on the closing statement, you should be getting $500 back credit from the seller. So you bring $500 less to the closing table. On top of that, let's suppose that the security deposit was $1,000. On the day of closing, you're bringing $1,000 less because the seller's giving you back that credit for the $1,000 they have in security deposit for that tenant. That's the way it's supposed to be done. What's the problem? You really need to make sure that the lease he's showing you is a true lease. And the only way you could really do that is, one, to get the tenant to sign this certificate, agreeing to all the information that's on the lease, number one. Number two, if there's a property manager for the seller, the property manager can give you the entire printout of how that tenant was paying, including all their documents. Right now, I would sometimes actually accept that, because the property manager is not going to put their license in jeopardy to help this landlord sell a building with false documentations.
But Dan, how often do people come up with falsified leases? You blowing my mind right now. Like, why? How did it? I mean,
Listen, it's happened to me once. And again, it happened to this mentee. I've heard of it happening. It never happened to me again. This was like over 20 years ago. It doesn't happen to me again because I take the necessary steps to ensure it doesn't happen. I take the necessary steps to make sure all the information I'm getting is validated, right? I'd rather take these steps today, not to have the headaches tomorrow.
That's crazy, man. Falsified leases. Well, I learned something here tonight. Give us a thumbs up on that one, y'all. Make sure you follow Dan, USA Land Ventures. Give us a follow on the Instagram and on the YouTube. Dan, let's talk about 1099s, W-9s. You got 2 more days to get them all in. Why do we need to do those? Why or why not?
Mine are all done, actually. The last batch literally is going out. You can see these here. They're going out tomorrow. I sent out about 40 of them literally on Friday. And these were the straggle-alongs, and last-minute ones. But again, you want to be in compliance with the tax man.
Tell us why do we or don't we want to do W-9s?
Well, do you really want to talk about that?
Well, just give us real quick, because people, I know it's boring and stuff, but I mean, I know for me, I've seen friends of mine get really in trouble for writing checks to people, and sometimes the IRS. I've seen the IRS disallow canceled checks.
Okay, in that sense, yeah, let's talk about that. So, and I learned this. I learned this tactic from you, Kris. Contractors don't hate signing W-9s. So before they get their last check, or let's say they're in the middle of the job and they want that check, and I'm like, yeah, okay, you finished that section you completed that part of the contractual agreement. I'll be there today to bring you a check. And I learned this from you, Kris, when you said you show up to the job site with the check on a clipboard with the W-9. Well, when they sign that W-9, they'll get the check. And it just so happens it happened to me one time. I do it all the time now, but about 4 weeks ago, the guy started like bitching. He says, "Well, I'm just walking off the job if I got to sign that W-9 because the price I gave you was for cash." And I was like, "Hold
Yeah,
on a second, we
they all
never
say
talked cash,
they all
you know?"
say
Right. So I'm like, and that's a you problem, not a me problem. Well, I'm gonna have to raise the price. And I says, again, that's a you problem, not a me problem. And he threatened to walk off the job. And then after he told me he was gonna have to raise the price and he got loud, I said, you know what, man? I said, I don't think this is gonna work out. So you don't have to walk off the job. I'm kicking you off the job.
wow,
So
wow.
now he started trying to backpedal, and I was like, no, man, because if you're making a threat like that and you're gonna work with such disgust and anger and hate,
You could
what are
tell
you
you
gonna
up.
do when I'm not here to screw up my job behind the walls? And then after you get paid, 2 years from now, I figure out what the problem is, right? I says, no, I'd rather you leave. I'll pay you for what the work you completed, but you got to go. And by the way, you're not getting this check until you sign this W-9. So of course he signed the W-9 and he got off the job.
We got almost 50 people on here right now, Dan. Thanks y'all for hanging out. Dan, I find I've only had a few guys not want to sign the W-9. And by the way, guys, the W-9 is just an IRS form. Let me tell you why it's imperative that you get these things signed. I want Dan to chime in. See, with the IRS, they're looking for you to determine where all your expenses went. Okay. So what can happen is you write somebody a check, they cash it, and then you say the IRS says, "Well, you want this guy a $10,000 check." And you say, "Well, that was an expense on 123 Main Street or whatever." But sometimes what unscrupulous investors do is they write a check to somebody, and the person will give them the cash back, and they'll give the person a cut. So you can't necessarily prove just because I'm telling y'all, I've seen it. Just because you have a canceled check does not mean you get credit for an expense. Let me repeat that. Just because you have a canceled check does not mean the IRS is going to give you that credit as an expense.
So the IRS wants to get paid. So if they don't get paid from you, they want to collect the taxes from the person you paid it to, right? So now that 1099, that W-9, essentially what happens is at the end of the year, our accountant is going to send that person, right, that form that says, this is what you got from Dan Barrero, Kris Haskins, right? And this is what we reported to the government that you got. So
Yep.
now if they don't report it, the government knows they have it because Kris Haskins and I filed that W-9 telling the government, we just gave this contractor $30,000. And we're going to take the deduction for that 30,000, but he's got it. Now you go collect it from him because he earned it,
Yep.
right? So now, but there's a question here I want to just answer, Kris,
Oh, good.
it's from Ivan G. That's why you get title insurance. And I guess he's talking about if there's
Then
falsified leases. Title insurance covers the property, the title work on the property. So if somebody shows up 30 years from now, 20 years from now and says, this is my house and this is the proof of this is my house, and whoever sold it to you, bamboozled you, the title insurance company will pay you the money that you paid for that house, right? Now, that's not going to cover you in the event that you didn't confirm what the lease amounts were, or that, or the security deposits. That title insurance has absolutely nothing for that. The title insurance is only saying that the title company that did the work has an insurance company that gave them a bond, and is saying that if there's anything that ever comes up wrong with this title policy, meaning the chain of ownership, we will pay you if you lose.
Yeah,
That's all the title company insurance is for
but
nothing other than just that.
that ain't got nothing to do with that lease.
Nothing to do with that lease.
With that.
Any questions here, guys? Please put it up.
So the thing with W-9, Dan, I'll leave it alone. I just want everybody to know that I've been ordered it twice, right? And the first time I had no W-9s. Second time, my order was a piece of cake because they see. First of all, they're looking for people that are responsible, right? Did you file W-9s? And if you say this is the money you got going out, no questions asked. They did not once did they ask that I cancel checks. They didn't even ask. They knew that that money went out. It was reported in the story.
Right. So you just do it. If you do it the right way, it's a little bit more cumbersome. It does consume a little bit more time, but it's nothing compared to the headaches if you're not organized when you get ordered.
Yeah, I keep thinking about you rolling down the streets of New York with a hand truck with those big boxes going to the.
One time, for those who don't, I get ordered it one year, and every time this order that came to the office, and every time they asked me for something, I gave it to them. So after about 2 or 3 years, I think it was like 2.5 years going back and forth with this one auditor, right? Um, I I I basically, she comes to me, she says she's angry because she can't corner me, right? And she says, you know what? I want to see every contract with the closing statement for when you bought it and for when you sold it, and the quarterly payments pertaining to those contracts for that quarter that you made for estimated taxes. So I was like, all right. She said, I'm going to give you 90 days. I said, I don't need 90 days. I'll have you in a week. Well, she was like, that's a lot of paperwork. And I said, I know. I says, I'll have it for you. Well, I showed up with 12 boxes. I went to Home Depot, picked up those file boxes, those cardboard file boxes, and my brother and I and my worker show up. It was in downtown Brooklyn. And let me tell you, they got armed security guards in every entrance and exit in that building. Like, you ain't getting in to see anybody unless they call and they let you up. Okay. And I could understand why, because those people could drive you to want to murder them. That's how bad they are. Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, she says, yeah, let them up. And the security guard goes, yeah, but they got a lot of boxes. And he goes, oh, yeah, let them up. So now we come in the elevator and there's three of us walking out with these hand trucks, right, filled with boxes. She goes, what's this? I said, everything you asked for. She goes, what? And I said, yeah, every contract, every closing statement on the buying, every closing statement on the selling, every check, every proof of, the quarterly taxes paid. Let me tell you, I threw shit in there that had nothing to do with it. Next month, I get a letter, no further action. Bullshit. She didn't look through that shit. She probably looked through maybe a couple of boxes here and there. Yeah. So you asked for it. Here it goes. Here, go search.
I am just envisioning you with a freaking. Because you the type of dude that will really do that shit.
Yo,
Envisioning you just toting down the street. Da, da,
yeah.
da. All right, man. We got a question. Oh, yeah, we got to get that certificate of tenant confirmation. We could probably get that as a download one day.
Listen, the reality is it's real simple. All you can just fill it. Anybody can fill this in. You put down the tenant's name, you put down the tenant's address. This is what, it's been reported that you're currently paying per month. This is a copy of the lease. Please certify that this lease is correct. This is the security you put down. This is current rent. This is when the lease ends. That's it, right? And then they're going to sign it, yes or no. If they disagree with it, don't sign it. If they, I had one time, one time what the seller was like, I have one tenant refuses to sign it. I said, well, what we could do is we could take 12 months off the price, whatever that rent is. So let's just simplify it. If the rent was $1,000, I'm going to take $12,000 off the price, and don't worry about it. If I have a problem with it, I'll never come back to you because you gave me you did a concession, right? For that, he said, screw that, the bitch will sign it. Just like that, he said, right?
Oh.
And sure enough, he got her to sign it and get it notarized, right? What he did to entice her to do that, I don't know, but I'll take on your headache because that tells me she's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll take on that headache,
But
but it's going to cost you money, right? There's a cost to that value.
all right, Nicole Perry. I forgot to announce some people here, man. Kathy Fields, thank you so much for joining us. And no more. got some tenant problems. A Brown, Nicole Perry, Kitty D. Thank you guys. I can barely see this. Sacramento's Pizza. How do I do a creative finance buy a 12 unit that needs work? The work's 500,000 when the seller's asking 975. I can't put the question up, Dan. How do I?
I don't know, but that's a question we can't answer because we would have to ask this person asking this question a whole lot more other questions, personal questions, like, how much money do you have down? Is your money clean? Because if it's a pizzeria, it may not be clean, right? There's so many different ways, but now you could go with a no income check. I think they call those now, what do they call those things now? DC
DCSR, something like that,
yeah, basically, it's all the same shit that was available to me in 1989, guys. They just come up with all these new acronyms and make it look all like it's a new hack and it's a new play, when in reality it's been around forever. You could go with a no income check, especially if you're a pizzeria owner, because you have a cash business. So I know it's what the difficulties you're going to have, right? Proving your income. So, and that's why I used to have to go with no income check loans. But those no income check loans are going to cost you more in closing costs, usually about 15% more. And they're also going to cost you more in a rate, anywhere between a quarter of a point to sometimes 3/4 of a point more. And it's going to cost you another point or two on top of your closing costs. So it is possible.
We talking about creative finances, so creative financing, yeah.
Or they could get the seller to hold the mortgage.
Come here.
Yeah, I mean that's so deep right there, but it can be done. I will say that Sacramento's Pizza, it can be done. A Brown, what are some legal and ethical ways to avoid capital gains tax or pay Uncle Sam the minimum? Oh, I love this.
Get a good accountant. Two things: have a really good accountant that's going to continuous ed every year, and be extremely organized. And three, educate yourself as well. Don't just depend on your accountant. Take the time out on social media. There's so many different platforms you could go to educate yourself. One of them, I'll tell you right now, is his name is Mark Kohler, Kolher. He's on YouTube. He's on Facebook. He's on Instagram. He does lives on this stuff. He gives you all this free information. Take that information, challenge your accountant. Say, accountant, why can't we do it this way instead of that way? And sometimes the accountant may say, well, that's a great idea. Sometimes the accountant may say, we can't do it because we filed this differently. However, maybe we could do it a different way, right? So challenge your accountant, but the way to challenge your accountant is by educating yourself.
Yeah. Even to this day, when I talk to my accountant about my self-directed Roth IRA or self-directed 401k, they're not specialists when it comes to, well, I haven't met one. Maybe Dan has. I haven't met an accountant. But there are some out there, but generally speaking, most accountants aren't going to be niched down to where they're going to know everything. So it's our obligation to go out there and learn and then say, what about this? What about this? What about that? But I want to answer Dan before we move on off that. Let me make sure who asked this question. 1 second, Dan. A Brown, please look into 1031 exchanges. Look into self-directed Roth IRA and self-directed Roth 401ks. So we have, I'm telling y'all, man, we buy the real estate in the IRA and sell it. We pay zero taxes, and we loan it. Say, for instance, if Dan was an investor, right, I would loan Dan the money to do the flip. That's how we do it. And then he'd pay us back for using the money. I could charge, say for instance, I could charge Dan $20,000 for loaning them $300,000 for 2 months, whatever the hell I want to charge them, So, and say the profit, we can split the profit. All this stuff is going back into your self-directed Roth IRA. So, at least look into that, Abraham.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Nicole, Kevin Martin. Good evening. Good evening to you. What is your viewpoint on purchasing individual apartment units, and what do you look for if you do? That's Dan.
When you say like individual apartment units, does he mean condos? I wonder if that's what he's meaning.
He must be talking about condos because you got a whole lot of
Yeah,
H.
look, I like condos. I love the condo business. I love it primarily because most investors stay away from it, so it's less competitive.
Easier buy.
Um,
Tell
but
them why they stay away though, Dan.
they stay away because there's really a misconception out there about condos in general. Uh, and a lot of people aren't out there teaching it.
Well, I will
It's
say, Dan, I've seen some guys get in trouble, man. You know, sometimes, I'm sure you know, the HOA association can lose their financing ability.
So, and that's where the research comes into. So I don't
Yeah, I
buy
know that.
condos like in areas like New York City or California. Um, I don't buy in Chicago. I don't buy in any major cities because the numbers don't really make sense. And the condo boards are extremely restrictive,
Uh,
especially when it comes to renovations. And because they're so restrictive, they increase uh, the cost, that cost factor, right? So, but I do buy condos in what I call Republican states, and by I don't want everybody here to truly understand. I'm not an advocate for Republicans or Democrats. I can't stand either one of them. But the reality is, in Republican states, the tenant housing laws are a lot more even than they are in Democratic states. So, having said that, that's why I buy a lot of condos in Florida, but I'm very selective in the communities. I go to the board meetings before I buy. I interview the condo on-site manager. I look at what the financials look like. I look at what the bylaws say and the rules and the condo docs. I want to make sure that all their reserve funds are up to date. I want to make sure I'm not going to get hit with a special assessment. I want to make sure that the bylaws say I could actually rent and that they can't stop me from renting. These are the things you have to look for. Now, I love condos, especially when I do it from afar, because I don't concern myself any longer with the roof, the
repair.
sidewalk, the stairs, the exterior painting, the windows or doors, the landscaping, the paving of the parking area. If a tree fell, if the water main is messed up, or the sewer main, or the main electrical line, or these are the things you don't concern yourself with. You just concern yourself with the inside of that door. So, again, you have to be extremely selective. It takes time to learn it. We teach that on our mentorship class that we do for free every Wednesday. So, again, I love condos, especially if you're going to manage it from afar. They're great. But you have to learn the skills on how to dissect and interpret those condo documents so that you buy in the right community.
Management is more important than money, y'all. Dan, A. Brown wants to know, what is clean money? Is that like money that you go and put it in the
Money,
washing?
money that you were showing. So a lot of the reality is that a lot of retail mom and pop stores don't show the cash they make, right? Um,
It's part of life.
so you know that's not clean money. They can't go to the bank and say, "Bank, I made 300,000, but I only showed 200,000 on my tax returns," right? So that's what I mean by clean money.
Dan, what is an accountant Mark? What is Mark's last name?
Mark
Gregory
Kohler,
Melendez.
Kolher. He's actually, somebody put it up here already.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah.
A. Brown, you're welcome. Kathy Fields, what do you think about 1031 exchange versus opportunity zone?
Yeah, I've never worked in an opportunity zone, so I can't tell you.
I mean,
Um,
go ahead.
there's a question here, Dan. How do I get into your mentorship class? If you go to my IG bio, just go to
I don't even know
shop.usalandventures.com.
how do I put a comment in here? You know what? This is so new. They don't even have any features on here. You can't even
Yeah,
type in here.
but yeah, just go to my YouTube, my channel. Just go to my
IG.
IG. It's in my bio.
Kenny D wants to know, aren't you deferring taxes with an IRA? Absolutely not. Kenny D, you got to get out of your head, man. We're not doing contributions. We're only doing gains. All right. So I can't teach this stuff tonight, but we don't do this is all inside. It's self-directed, not a traditional, okay? JJ the CPA. Sicario's Pizza. How do I explain a potential sub 2 deal to a seller that has no idea? I've never met a seller that had any idea what a subject to. Matter of fact, I've never met the majority of real estate investors don't know what the hell a subject
Yeah,
including Dan.
Yeah, when Chris brought that up to me, I was like, so you want somebody to turn over the deed to you and they're going to keep the mortgage in their name. I said,
Yeah,
and they
right.
do that shit? And he was like, all day long.
That's why I love this business. I could be doing some shit Dan never even thought about doing, and he's doing stuff, and we're both winning.
Yeah, that was funny. I remember we were at the bar in Dallas, Texas, and what was it? I think it was the Hilton, right? Where we were staying at for the conference.
I don't
And
know.
he was explaining that to me and my brother. And we're both looking at him like deers in the headlights.
You're like, no way, that ain't happening. How do you explain it? Well, the first thing, we'll get quickly till we get out of here. Sicario, when they think you're trying to scam them, but you're trying to help them. That's the story of Dan's life. I don't get people, for some reason, I don't feel like people think I'm trying to scam them anymore, man. Do you, Dan?
So I'm in New York, man. So everyone's natural first assumption is that you're trying to scam them, right? So that's just a New York attitude problem, though.
Okay, Sicario. At this stage in my life, man, I so much don't care if they do the deal with me. It's almost like I promise you, they can sense it. They can tell when you don't care. And like, I've got a million other things going on. I mean, I'll take your deal on, but it's really about your posture. If you go in, I love what Dan has this thing he calls hat in hand. If you go hat in hand, I promise you, nobody's gonna sell you a
Nobody's
substitute.
gonna give you money, no.
Yeah. But if
So
you go
when Chris said to me, he goes, "Why are you not using more private money?" I said, "Because I feel like when I go to people for private money, I'm going my hat in my hand, like if I'm a poor guy, you know." So, Chris, you changed my mind to that, though. The way you tell the audience what you said.
You sick in the head, man. So we're doing, even with a sub 2 or private money, we're doing them a favor. Like, I'm taking your money and I'm making your money make money for you, as opposed to you sticking it in a CD. And then, even if they are getting 3%, which is high, they had to pay a penalty if they pull that money out of the CD.
So, Chris said to me, "Dan, you got a road behind you. Your road behind you is the proof of your success. Your road behind you is the proof of your integrity, of your morality, and the trials and tribulations that you've overcome. That road behind you
Priceless.
is what people will invest in. That's why they'll give you that money. Plus, you're going to make the money as a result of the road behind you." So when I started getting that into my head, and I was like, you know what? You're right. So now when I put out there, listen, I'm going to start taking on private money, I was surprised how many people, family and friends, were throwing money at me.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had to be very selective.
I don't want everybody's money.
No, because I don't want people who can't afford to lose money, number one, because things may not go right. Yeah. I've never not paid anyone. Everyone's always gotten their money, even if it meant I lost money. But neither do you want somebody who's going to be calling you up every day because they're nervous or scared, right? And driving you nuts, right? So, yeah, I'm very selective. Very selective.
To answer the question, Sicario, real quick, we're going. You don't use subject to. We step in and we have a whole several ways to do it. If you email us, I have a subject to audio we can give you for free. Or you go to my link bio in my IG, it'll be there too. Mark Colo, JJ CPA. But don't do subject to. Never tell a seller, Mr. Smith, we're gonna buy your house subject to, okay? That shit don't work. That ain't gonna work. Hey, look, give us a follow, subscribe, Dan's channel and my channel, yo. Make sure you subscribe.
USA Land Ventures, guys. That's the channel that, you guys can go and subscribe. I got a lot of golden nuggets on there. It's a golden nugget series. I try to keep them below 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes the most. So yeah, by all means, please go on there.
Nicole Perry, what are your thoughts on purchasing property subject to? I love it. It's my favorite way to buy. I bought my house right here. I'll never forget when my wife went to closing. May remember you went to closing on this house here?
Yeah,
How easy was it?
very easy.
My wife doesn't do real estate. When she walks in, she's like, sign the papers. You know, we're buying a 6-figure asset, so buying houses subject to is the best way to go.
Guys, I gotta go, man, because to be honest, I haven't eaten dinner yet, man.
What?
Yeah, it's been a crazy day because I'm leaving tomorrow. So you know how that goes, man. It's
Where you
insanity.
going? Tell everybody where you going. So can they join you? Where you gonna be?
So I'm gonna be in Florida in downtown Fort Myers speaking at an event. There's approximately 300 real estate professionals that are gonna be there. Um, it's a serious networking event. I was asked to come in and speak, and what I'm going to be speaking about is basically trying to educate realtors that when they're selling to an investor, it's a total different animal than selling to an end user, right? And what information do we require versus just the end user? And when you shouldn't be trying to sell an investor, you should be informing the investor because information is so much more valuable than a sales pitch to an investor,
Man,
right? Um,
that's deep.
so that's going to be what my speaking engagement is going to be, my part of the speaking engagement, and then of course they're going to have a networking event afterwards. So it starts at 9. I suspect that won't be done probably until like by the time I get back to the condo, it's going to be like 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. But I love it. It's downtown. It's at the Arts Center, the David Arts Center. I think it's in downtown Fort Myers. If you send me a DM on my Instagram channel, I'll send it to you. And what's best about it is that everyone that's going to be there is not getting paid to speak. It's all going to charity. All proceeds, 100% of the proceeds. I think it's like only $69 to get in. So all the proceeds are going to charity. 3 different local charities in the Fort Myers area. You guys know that they went through that serious hurricane a year ago. There's still a lot of challenges that they're experiencing there as a result of that hurricane.
I bet.
Yeah, so it's going to be all for charity. So again, if you guys are interested, yeah, I'm in Cape Coral. I love it. If you want to meet up with me, Kenny D, by all means. We get there tomorrow night. Get there tomorrow night.
Thanks, Dan.
Have a good night, everyone. Take care.
I'm gonna stick on for a minute. I see a couple sub 2 questions here. My favorite buy. My favorite way to buy.
Take care, brother.
Okay, Dan. I'll see you soon, buddy.
Bye-bye.
What are my thoughts? Let's see, guys. I don't do lots in Florida. What are my A Brown? What are some ways to raise private money? So for me, we do private money. I've got shit, man. I can't even tell you how many hundreds of thousands of dollars that we've raised, millions of dollars we've raised in private money, right, from other people. Dang gone. So private money, you start with your friends, family. And don't be scared, but I will tell you, Abraham, you have to have a prospectus. In fact, maybe I'll do a private lending video over the next week or so you can, if you email us, I have a whole training on it. It's a couple $100, but the prospectus is documents that you show people, right? The flip chart you got to have. I wouldn't try to borrow any money from anybody unless I had a prospectus. But the prospectus is going to be your golden ticket to getting private money. When you talk to them, you show them flip chart, you go through, you show them how you do business. That's the way I did it. I'm sure that other people have done it other ways, but that's how I did it. Mark MM, how do you put your trustee in your land trust? Well, your land trust, you create it when you either buy the property or you transfer the property into the trust. So you got to have a trustee that you trust. So I use business partners. I've got old family members where I've got them around the country. So the trustee comes along when you create the land trust. All right. That's a real simple one there. So you create that, then you say, hey, look, trustee, come sign. Because your trustee signs all the documents. You don't sign anything. Good question. Martell, what up, homie? How do you provide proof of funds to someone who you propose a subject to deal for? Never had to do it. If they want a proof of funds, we give them a bank statement with where the private lenders have funded one of our deals. But never had to do that. You shouldn't have to do that. I don't know why you do that. Martell is subject to legal in every state. Absolutely. Remember, all we're doing is taking over the seller's debt. When you do a sub two, that's all you're doing. You're taking over the seller's debt. You're not signing for it. You're not going in and qualifying for it. You're not assuming it. What it could be called technically is a non-qualifying assumption, right? All we're doing is stepping in, making the loan payments on behalf of the seller. Loan stays in their name, house comes in our name. You got to, these are some moving parts that it just takes a little time to unlock your mindset and understand that the loan is in their name, but the house is going to be in your name or in your trust. I recommend that. Sakari, there you go. It's legal in every state. By the way, what song did I produce? 8 Mile. Martell. I worked on the Wankster song with Jay Praise. Shout out to Jay Praise. What up? UB Rhymes. Subject to versus raps. Saying, I don't know why everybody's making a big deal over this rap thing. Subject to is you buy the property, loan stays in the seller's name. If you buy it on a rap, loan still stays in seller's name. You're just making a rap over top of that loan. It's the same mess. Same thing. It only gives the seller the right to foreclose on you. No difference. I don't know why everybody's saying, well, I don't do subject to. I don't do subject to. I do rap notes. I don't do subject. I'm like, you're still leaving the loan in the seller's name. It's the same thing. So you have to decide which one makes you sleep at night. Wonderful life. Hello, I'm new to the game. Okay, cool. Wanted to start flip homes, but I don't know which direction. I highly recommend you to go to any of my videos and download. You can go to REI Foundations. You gotta get your foundation set. Don't try to get in and just start flipping homes because you think ugly junkers is the way to go. There's so many other ways to get paid. We got short-term rentals. We got Section 8 rentals. You got new construction. You got midterm rentals, travel nurse rentals. So if you go to REI Foundations, it's going to be my entry-level course. It's going to cost you nothing but a tank of gas. 15 ways to get started in real estate. Wonderful life. I highly recommend you to start there. REI Foundations. Get you the foundation before you just jump in and just try to do that HGTV mess. Get you in a sling, messing with them fools. It's all fake, by the way. Hey, Brown, do I generate a land trust the way you set up an LLC, or do you just set up the paperwork? The LLC requires an EIN. The land trust does not, right? So you could just print it out, get your trustee to sign, you sign, turn it into the title company, and it's over, right? Don't overthink it. The land trust is a flow-through entity, it's a pass-through entity. So all the stuff's going to pass right through to your tax ID, right? So don't worry about that stuff. Look, guys, I love you guys. Hopefully tomorrow I'm trying to put together, we're building short-term rental empire and trying to get Clarence to come on here tomorrow and do a workshop for us. So make sure if you're interested in short-term rentals, comment and in this video description, make sure you're following or subscribe, because you don't even have to buy the house, y'all. You don't have to own the property to get paid with short-term rentals. You can just go in there and lease it from a landlord and then put it on a short-term rental website. Sakari, I had one potential seller ask me to send them an agreement, and they contacted me the next day and said they got a better offer. What happened here? Did they shop my offer? Yeah, that's just business. Can't change that. Martell, is it common to do a sub 2 with a commercial property? Absolutely. Sub 2, I'm telling y'all, man, it's common from A to Z. It just may not be common to you just because you don't know. It's so weird. I saw a guy in the locker room at my gym the other day. I don't know how long he'd been coming to the gym, but I saw him in the locker room, right? And then just a few days later, I see him out in public. It's like what you look for shows up. What you can recognize shows up in life. I don't know why. It's just how it works. I'm interested in short-term rental. Okay, cool. So y'all, if you don't mind, just comment in the video so I can get Clarence, the short-term rental master, can come on and teach us this stuff. You got to understand short-term rentals if you want some longevity in this business. All right, guys, I'm done. I look forward to seeing y'all. Take care. See you on the next video. Peace.